If you're like me and have tried dozens of healing modalities like breathwork, meditation, journaling, yoga, neural retraining, and on and on and on, and you're still feeling stuck, it's likely that you're making a few mindset mistakes. When I first started healing from Crohn's disease, panic, dizziness, back pain, fatigue, I became obsessed with healing. And I actually found a lot of things that worked, but inevitably symptoms would come back and I would fall into this pit of despair. It was only through a lot of trial and error that I finally began to heal. In this video, I'll share the top 5 mistakes I made in my nervous system healing journey. My hope is that you'll see yourself in them and be able to remove some of the obstacles in your healing process. The quick fix is a classic healing trap that I still fall into on my low days. I can still remember a time right before I moved to Denver when I was experiencing some digestive issues. And I decided that I was going to resolve these before I moved because I didn't really want to have to worry about it when I was moving to a new city. So I said, I'm going to figure this out before I leave. And it turns out in those 3 weeks, I actually had some of my most intense symptoms. There was a very clear connection with my urgency to fix the symptoms and the symptoms actually intensifying. Another way to view this is from Dr. Stanislav Grof. He is one of the pioneers of LSD research and brought holotropic breathing to the West when LSD was outlawed as a healing modality. He expresses that in the healing process, the psyche will only reveal what the individual is ready to process and face at that time. When we are unearthing dysfunctional patterns or old stories or even trauma, sometimes it takes building an inner reservoir of resources to be able to meet our experience with a different level of curiosity, kindness, and courage. Let this be a reminder to drop the agenda from our healing process and to let it unfold naturally on its own time. Now, if you're on this video, you've probably already explored the fact that the body and mind are deeply connected and perhaps aren't even separate at all. I can remember this one instance where I was on a new basketball team and I was feeling so self-conscious and I couldn't even hold a conversation with someone because my mind was racing so much. I walked home from the basketball game feeling so defeated. And then the next week, I showed up, same people, and I felt like I could effortlessly connect, and I played one of my best games. I realized that the week before I had eaten a ton of processed food and was incredibly stressed out prior. Now, this isn't some revolutionary insight, but at the time it was such a stark contrast of two very similar situations and going into it with a different body state. Now, when I notice myself in an anxious spiral, I will usually go into the body to try and come back to homeostasis. That might mean movement or sunlight or even rest. Sometimes breathing. I know that getting into the body is a much more effective strategy than trying to think my way out of a negative headspace. I never really identified as a perfectionist, but as I started to learn more about it, I was like, okay, I think I do that a little bit. Like I said, I became obsessed with healing. I started to eat a metabolically friendly diet and live in a way that supports my circadian rhythm and move my body enough, but not too much, and get adequate sunlight, sleep for a certain amount of time, do my nervous system regulation practices, and all of a sudden, my whole day is stacked with stress relief and being in this rigid, perfect way of living. While I find all of the things I mentioned and more incredibly valuable and foundational staples of what keeps me in a state of vibrancy and well-being today, I have learned to loosen the grips. When I do get less sleep or expose myself to a lot of artificial light at night, I might double down on another practice. Maybe I'll do some yoga nidra to get some rest in the afternoon. I'll have some home-cooked whole foods that are nourishing. One of the mistakes I made was waiting to live my life until I was healed. I had this vision of myself being completely free from symptoms, and I would just show up in the world and be able to travel the world. I'd have my dream job, my relationships would be flowing smoothly, and my body would be functioning at peak. And this moment never came. This moment never came. I don't want to dismiss that possibility for you where you do feel completely free, or for myself. There are thresholds we reach where we feel good enough in our bodies to still engage in the things that we love, whether that be travel or going for our dream. Things started to shift as I started to travel a bit more. I was so afraid of traveling out of the country for an extended period of time because I thought if I have a flare up and I don't have a hospital to go to, I would be in serious trouble. And while this might be a valid concern, for me, I just decided to send it. I went to Costa Rica for 3 weeks. I got to explore the rainforest, go ATVing, go surfing, and I had the best time. My symptoms weren't completely absent, but they weren't completely absent at home either. I also started this YouTube channel before I am completely healed, but being in a place where I feel really good about where my body and mind is at, and wanting to share where I'm at from a place of humility, and I'm learning with you guys. Trying to do it alone, or that lone wolf mentality. When we are going through something deeply distressing, it can feel like we are all alone in it because no one else seems to be dealing with what we're going through. So let's just do this alone because no one else really gets it. And that's just not true. Maybe it's true that no one else in your life is experiencing the symptoms that you're going through, or maybe even the level of distress that you are experiencing. But everyone is battling silent battles that you know nothing about. For me, one of the biggest shifts happened when I joined my men's group that met weekly, and I started to learn from other people's experiences, see myself in theirs, and learn from them. Also, I could show up fully as myself, and that was kind of my safe haven for the week, where I knew I could just relax and be myself and completely unmasked. The time that I've spent in solitude has been so enriching and empowering, and the time that I've spent with others, especially in healing containers, has also been equally, if not more, enriching and enlivening to my life as well. I've thrown around a lot of buzzwords and talked about different aspects of healing quite a bit, and that's what I'll be exploring on this channel. Different modalities, perspectives, philosophies, and diving deep on my experience and chatting with experts. If you're curious about diving deeper on any of this stuff, like and subscribe and follow along for more content.